Hello everyone, my name is Chris, and I've been playing D&D since I was 12, and I have been a Dungeon Master since I was 15. I currently stream every Wednesday at Cape Fear Games for Adventurers League, as well as Thursday at Cape Fear Games for my homebrew session, The Lost Pages of Shiraz. At the making of this video, I am currently working on a special animation about one of my favorite D&D memories. But in the meantime, I did a poll on the Facebook page All Things D&D, one on which topic I should cover. After reviewing the results, the most prominent answer was which are my favorite D&D monsters and why. In my D&D career as both a player and as a dungeon master, I have fought all manner of monster types, from goblins to dragons, demons to devils, aboleths to demigods. I have stood against and made use of nearly every monster that is in the pages of the monster manual. Over those years, I have developed a liking for many of them, but I have to say, there are 4 that top the list without question. For this video, I will start with the least favorite of the 4 and finish with the top dog on my list. For me, my favorite monsters are all about how fun the fight can be, how much of a nail-biter it is, or how challenging they can be to the appropriate levels. Obviously, I won't be considering the CR ratings of monsters, since obviously a lich can smash a kobold and nothing flat. I also won't be getting too picky on monster types. As an example, a dragon. Since all dragons are vastly different in combat and personality, it would be easier and much more appropriate to list their given subspecies. Before we get into this list, if you like what you see, why not hit the subscribe button and show me some support? And maybe hit the like button as well and do the same. Shameless promotion, but why not? It lets me know I'm doing something right by you guys. Without further ado, let's get into it. Critical Chris's Top 4 Monsters. So, we all have that one monster we can harken back to in regards to our earliest memories of D&D. For many of us, it was the same thing. The humble goblin is often the first thing we fight. Wouldn't you know it? The gobbo, of all monsters I have faced, is certainly not on this list. But the one thing that immediately followed it for me in the same setting was the boss of the whole mini starter campaign going all the way back to 3rd edition, and one of the main starter sets in those days was a black dragon. Although back then it was a wormling in the box set, it easily cemented my love for this particular flying reptile. The black dragon is, to me, unique in dragons in that it hangs out primarily in swamps, which, to me, are fairly unpleasant biomes to run into things. Hags come to mind when I think of swamps, unfortunately. So, the mere thought of a swamp is just ew for me. Black dragons are also very menacing looking. Their faces looking skeletal, almost as if their skin is pulled tight over their skull, making them more terrifying to face. Assuming you aren't a paladin or something who just pulls a space marine and knows no fear.
For the Emperor!
Although not the only dragon to breathe acid, the copper dragon is the metallic counterpart there. Its entire motif is to hang out in swamps and ruins and feed off the decay of society. Not only that, it is known to be the most sadistic of the chromatic dragons, taking sick pleasure in causing pain and misery to anyone dumb enough to stumble upon its abode. It is an unpleasant creature, hanging out in an unpleasant locale, and has very unpleasant attitude, but it still holds a place in my heart as being my first dragon. Next on my list, we step away from the scaly and turn to the insanity, and step into the non-existent shoes of the floating meatballs with eyes themselves, the Beholders. If you have watched my other videos, which, why not? You would know that I love bringing up Beholders, mainly as a joking threat, maybe as a real threat, depends on my mood. But regardless, the love for these insane bloated eye infections goes back to my earlier years yet again, but not from fighting them. Not at first, at least. You see, I owe my love for D&D to my father. He was my first DM, and was he who pushed me into this foray into the hobby. My father played back in the 70s and 80s, back when you needed a calculus degree to play this game. I remember the stories he would tell me about some of his D&D adventures, such as fighting Drow, defeating dragons, and even fighting Lolth herself, and winning. When I first asked him what the most difficult monster for him to fight was, without hesitation, he brought up Beholders. Beholders can murder entire parties back in those days much easier than they can now. Not saying they are weaker now, but Wizards started running out of band-aids for us lowly adventurers and just decided to give us a break from the constant eye rays of pain and made them random. I remember the sheer terror in my dad's eyes when he would talk about fighting beholders, and for me that stayed. Especially up into the first day I stood toe to non-existent toe with one of these things and learned just how honest he was, as all but 2 of our 6-man party was reduced to either bloody paste or fine dust, myself somehow not being among the dusty ones. Since then, I have had both a fear and a love for these maddening eyesores, and I always will. Grinding down the list, we come up to one of my favorite monsters to throw at players, strictly for the shock value and sheer dent they can make in the party. Minotaurs. Now, as a DM, if you can weasel one of these horned bone mashers into your story for whatever reason, do it. These things are terrifying to players, especially those who know anything about Greek lore and what these things are capable of. Minotaurs are hard-hitting, especially if they get a running start and can be game over for most lower level characters. Then comes the Great Axe. That is when the heads start rolling. What works best is a maze-like environment with minimal light. Not no light, minimal light. That messes with everyone. Have it just hunt around every corner, slowly hunting the players down, pushing them to the corners of the maze. Or if your party is crazy enough to charge it, have it lure them into a spot where, once they realize the mistake they have made, they have limited options. And the Minotaur, of course, knows every path and way around them, so he can easily cut them off with little effort. Then, of course, go after the weaker ones, and just eat them alive. Totally worth seeing the sheer despair of their faces. 10 out of 10 would charge. And now, the top dog, the pointy tip of the food chain for me. The tentacle face creeps themselves. The Lithids, or as peasants know them, MindFlayers. These terrifying freaks of the Underdark conduct possibly the most terrifying means of killing someone. That being eating their brains right out of their heads in the most unfathomably painful way possible. Wrapping their face fingers around your face. Taking their face beaks hidden under their Cthulhu cosplay and piercing your skull to suck the brain right out of the back of your skull. Fun thing is, if this doesn't kill you, you instead take 10d10 to the head. This is assuming that damage doesn't kill you, which you would already be grappled by this point via an intelligence saving throw. Which only one class can gain the upper hand there. Wizards. They can also brain burst you and stun you, making you easy prey to have your brain hoovered out of your head cavity like a wet floor spill at Walmart. To top it off, they have magic, but it's psionics. So dispel magic or other magic resistance you might have is completely out the window. Also, how they reproduce is just downright terrifying. No mommy and daddy, Illithid. Just a tadpole, your ear hole, and lots of pain. If you have seen the Baldur's Gate 3 trailer, there is your crash course in MindFlayer population spreading. This is one crazy monster that can throw off the entire fantasy vibe you got going on and throw in a threatening alien experience deep underground that could care less about your magic and instead destroy that brain in your head. Possibly the best feature about these things is they have the capability not only to be a regular monster occurrence at higher levels, but at lower levels a boss monster, or even a pseudo-boss monster. In either case, that Mind Blast, stunning, and brain extraction part can end nearly any character in just a handful of turns. Because of the terror of a squid-faced dude who can melt your brain with a thought, spell abilities that laugh at your magic defenses since it's brain power, no magic nonsense, and its ability to pull the strings of the world under your very nose, that these brain-melting masterminds earn the top spot on my list of favorite D&D monster. Thank you guys for watching. This was a video I was happy to do since it allows you guys to get a look into my mind not only as a person, but as a DM, as well as in how I model the worlds I make and the various influences upon them. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video as well. It lets me know I'm doing right by you guys. Need some DM or general D&D advice? Leave a comment and I will answer to the best of my ability. You guys can catch me on the Cape Fear Games Twitch channel every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. for Adventures League, and again on the Cape Fear Games Twitch channel at 7 p.m. for my homebrew session, The Lost Pages of Shiraz. Until next time, may all your rolls be a crit success.